You know, considering the mixed reception towards this, you can say that this film's reputation is anything but legendary. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel and another installment of my Zack Snyder review series, where I'm going through all of Zack Snyder's films that I have yet to review. Today we're talking about his fourth film, Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. Let me know in the comments before we begin what your thoughts on Legend of the Guardians were, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my channel out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's jump right into it and let's talk about Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. This stars Jim Sturgess as the voice of Soren, a young barn owl who's kidnapped by owls of St. Aggie's, ostensibly an orphanage where owlets are brainwashed into becoming soldiers. He and his new friends escape to the island of Ga'Hoole to assist its noble, wise owls, who fight the army being created by the wicked rulers of St. Aggie's. As of now, this is Zack Snyder's only animated feature, being based on the first 3 books in a fantasy series called Guardians of Ga'Hoole. I've never read the original series, and honestly, I never even heard of it until I knew the movie was getting released, but from what I'm gathering, it seemed like it was well liked. Of all Zack Snyder's pre-DCEU films, this was the one I most recently watched prior to watching everything again for these reviews. Though there's a caveat to that, which I'll explain in a second. I initially was going to see this in theaters back in 2010. I remember seeing the trailer for it, and it looked incredible. It seemed like it was going to be this huge fantasy epic that was going to rival How to Train Your Dragon, which was also released that same year and that I loved. And Zack Snyder was coming off of Watchmen the previous year, which at the time I loved as well, and I was ready for another big, dark fantasy movie. And then I saw the reviews and I backed off, and I never got around to it until a few years later. But I tried sitting down with it, and I didn't even finish the movie because at the time I was bored to tears with it. I think I got about halfway through. So sitting down with it for this review is actually the first time I'm seeing it in its entirety. Now, my opinion of what I actually saw only slightly improved, and actually seeing the movie in its entirety didn't help matters much either. Now, this isn't a terrible movie, but it's not all that good either. I still maintain the trailers did a great job of selling it as being a lot cooler than it turned out to be. So, we'll start with what I did like. For one thing, the animation here is absolutely stunning. That was the one thing that always stuck out to me for years about this. You had this beautiful looking world, with a lot of it taking place at sunrise or sunset, so every frame was always bursting with color. A lot of it was captured with these wide shots that did a great job of showing us the scope of this universe. And because the animation looked great, it made all the pivotal moments here absolutely wonderful to look at, especially the flight sequences. Everything ranging from the initial kidnapping of Soren, to the escape, to all these fight scenes. Everything looked amazing. And you have a top-notch voice cast here, all of whom do their best with the material and put in so much effort. Besides Sturgess, you also have Helen Mirren as Nira, the queen of the antagonists known as the Pure Ones. Joel Edgerton plays her mate, known as Metalbeak. Jeffrey Rush and Sam Neill are 2 of the Guardians. Hugo Weaving is in a dual role as Soren's father, as well as a Pure One who betrays that group early on. Abby Cornish is a Guardian in training, and that's just to name a few. The issue is, as far as these characters go, no one really stood out more than the other. These characters are all incredibly bland. Personality-wise, there's little that distinguishes the majority of these owls from one another, outside of a few of them who occasionally provide comedic relief, along with the main antagonist, who will say things with a much more sinister inflection just to let you know they're all evil. But this is a movie that tries way too hard to have that epic feel, though none of the emotional beats feel earned whatsoever. Nearly everyone speaks in this grandiose manner, always spewing platitudes, and even the most mundane conversations, even from the very beginning, are meant to feel like they have these earth-shattering consequences. But I rarely felt like I cared for any of these characters, and in turn, what they had to say never stuck with me. And it's not that the voice actors are doing a bad job. It's just that, besides the novelty of hearing great actors like Sam Neill or Jeffrey Rush sound really cool at all times, you don't ever get a chance to feel for these characters. Outside of the lines they use in the trailers, I forgot about all the dialogue not too long after I finished the movie. The extent of their personalities starts and ends with the tasks at hand. They're all incredibly serious, and they're to the point, and they're focused on what they need to focus on at all times, and nothing else, outside of the few owls who make some jokes here and there. You could have switched the majority of these characters around in their respective roles, And this film would have had the same effect on you emotionally, just because there's so little here that distinguishes one character from the other. And as a side note, what doesn't help either is that the designs for a number of these owls is way too similar. While the animation looked beautiful, it was sometimes hard to tell which owl was which unless you were specifically listening for the voice. Again, if each of these characters were given much more distinct personalities, that could have helped in avoiding the problem. And the story just feels so rushed. This is Snyder's shortest movie, clocking in at 97 minutes, yet it compressed 3 books into one. And while I haven't read the books, and I know they're not lengthy themselves, that made so much sense when I heard that. You bounce around from location to location, and no one's in one spot for that long before being sent to the next destination moments later. Like, you're with Soren and his family for not even 10 minutes before he's kidnapped, and then he's only with the pure ones for like 2 scenes before he escapes, and then he's with another group of owls for only so much time, and even when he first gets to the Guardians at 45 minutes in, they're together for like a couple of minutes, and the Guardians are immediately sending owls back out on a mission to investigate the pure ones. Now, it's not like I would have preferred if it moved at a snail's pace, as I do like faster paced stories that are to the point. It's just, there's also a balance of making sure that each moment feels earned and that you actually feel the stakes getting higher and higher, and you don't feel that here. Every location and most of the characters in said location are indistinguishable from one another, and at times, it doesn't make this story 100% easy to follow. The Guardians themselves especially, who are talked about in the beginning as these powerful mythical beings, when we get to them, they just feel so underwhelming. It's like, oh, by the way, here they are. Next, there's no sense of satisfaction when we do see them. And they were built up so poorly, where we briefly hear some stories about them at the very beginning, but it's not like we're given that much about them that we want to find out more. And then after that initial scene, they're just talked about in terms of the characters needing to get to them. And when we see them, they feel like just another set of characters. You don't get this sense of awe or relief that we're finally seeing the title characters of the movie. And I'm not even really getting into any spoilers like I did with my other Snyder videos, because there's nothing to talk about. There isn't one single moment that stood out to me more than the other, because it all just blends in, with each scene feeling derivative of what just came before it. Though, what I do want to mention before wrapping this all up is the film's tone. I'm not sure who this movie's supposed to be for. It seems like it was trying to appeal to both children and adults, but it doesn't successfully blend its more childlike and more adult-like elements all that well. And as a result, you'll have moments where some of the owls are having this silly banter that only kids will really appreciate, and then those scenes will be followed moments later by fight scenes that look great, but they're so violent with the owls being bloodied up that it will arguably be way too much for kids, only for them to be followed up by more childlike elements a scene later. It comes off like it's going back and forth as far as who it's trying to appeal to, rather than trying to consistently appeal to all audiences at all times, and as a result, it's very jarring. Now, there are 16 books in the original series, and this does open the door to more films being made, though I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. While some of the original voice cast have expressed interest in returning, and this did fairly well at the box office, there has been talks of getting that sequel underway. And considering the mixed critical reception at the time, and the fact it seems to mostly be forgotten, I don't think we'll see that in the near future. But if we were, I really hope the filmmakers take the criticisms into consideration and use them to improve any future installments. Maybe they can eventually go down the series of unfortunate events route and just reboot the whole thing as a TV series, where they'll have time to flesh everything out. Because there's a lot of potential in these stories, and you can see that come to light a number of times. But while it's mildly entertaining at times, it never lives up to its full potential, and it would be a shame to see it all go to waste if future installments are anything like this. Legend of the Guardians is one of the most disappointing movies from Zack Snyder. While he manages to put his usual visual tricks to good use and make this look really nice, the writing doesn't do it justice. The voice cast really tries, but there's little to no personality to most of these characters, while the journey doesn't feel totally earned, as this story feels rushed, bouncing around from location to location without really getting to feel the emotional impact of most of these moments. It's a well-intentioned movie, and certainly watchable, but it's ultimately a forgettable experience. Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole gets a 5 out of 10. So stay tuned. Up next will be my review of Sucker Punch, which should be interesting, to say the least. But in the meantime, let me know, did you see Legend of the Guardians, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you actually like this one? Do you want to see Zack Snyder do more animated movies? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep having fun with film.